Hello everyone, my name is Michael SK and welcome back to Umineko When They Cry. It has been far too long since I recorded the last video because I had to jump ship from everything that I was recording in order to finish up my Fate playthrough that I was doing. But now that that's out of the way, and now that it is a whole new year, 2026, it's time to get this show on the road. We're going to power through episode 6 here for sure. And totally hold me to that. Please, seriously, please hold me to that. I don't know if we're going to be finishing up all of Umineko this year, but damn, I gotta try. So anyways, yeah, I have no idea specifically what we're talking about here. I think in the last video, we were talking about like riddles, just like simple stuff, enjoying a nice family dinner. Nobody is necessarily trying to kill each other yet or is ridiculously angry at one another. And Erica is here. And let me remind you, the name of this chapter is The Annoying Guest. I know I'm not supposed to look at those because they can give away a little too much, but I think that one is very fitting. I think that one works out really well here for what's to come and what has already, you know, come up in this chapter. Yeah, she really just brought up a whole lot of like totally outside this world shit. Without any signs of restraint, Erica looked at everyone and laughed sarcastically. Only Maria didn't notice the venom in that laugh as she happily turned to the next page. Oh, okay, so we're doing more puzzles and riddles. Oh, I'm ready, guys. Okay, well that one on paper sounds too easy. Maybe. By now, Erica was gazing around with an unpleasant look, acting in a manner that was completely inappropriate for both a guest and for someone of her age. She was no longer a guest who would be staying until the storm passed. She had transformed into an annoying guest who wouldn't leave until the storm passed. Everyone thought this, but they were unable to say it aloud. At least, we can all be on the same page with one thing here.
コインの問題っていうと、ほら、お箸の使い方がうまいかどうかは、コインをお箸で掴めるかどうかでわかるそうだね。
お箸？そうです。お箸です。お箸は世界で最も優雅な食器です。
Yeah, I really need to learn.
突き刺し、引きちぎって口に運ぶナイフとフォークなんて野蛮の極み。お箸こそが最高です。私の箸使いこそが芸術。
Jessica was about to say, aren't chopsticks just sticks, but stopped herself just in time. Yeah, don't say that. She realized that it would be best to let George take control for now.
小銭あるけど、ちょっと僕と競争してみない？僕もお箸の持ち方には厳しいんだ。
そやな。ジョージの箸は随分厳しく教えたんや。
確かにテーブルマナーは育ちが出てしまうものだ。エリカさんの持ち方もなかなかに良い。
俺の小銭も貸してやるぜ。枚数が多い方が面白いだろ。
ジェシカ、よく見て覚えなさい。
うせえぜ。よし、競争しよう。ここにある小銭をどれだけ多く自分のお皿に移せるか。
望むところです。お箸。
Is this like a weakness of hers or something? This time, George had steered the conversation into a good direction. Everyone else understood, and they helped to egg on this chopstick fight and change the subject. They were fully aware by now that Erica was extremely proud of her intelligence, and apparently she had the bad habit of using that to look down on other people. She spun her chopsticks around with the deft hand of a juggler, staring at the coins scattered on the table like a dog who had been told to stay after having a meal placed in front of it. Yeah, I don't remember chopsticks being such like a lure to her, but whatever works, right? I think it's still very much in character. It completely makes sense. But yes, I also really need to learn how to use chopsticks. It's been years that I've been in situations that I should probably be using chopsticks in. The unsettling sound of the wind had now blended in with the sound of rain, mimicking the howl of some monstrous beast. Just when it seemed to be crying out sadly, it would suddenly turn into a roar and rattle the window, striking up even more fear and unease within me. Light from the hallway poured in through the thin crack of the slightly open door, and it seemed to carry with it laughter that was warm and happy, but very distant. I'm sure everyone's in the dining hall or somewhere having a good time. I want to go there as soon as I can. I'm sure my family will be there. I hate being all alone in a place like this. Who is this? Dad? Mom? I stubbornly tried again and again to get that door open, but the merciless chain just wouldn't let it open any further than that crack. Was this the scene that we saw at the very beginning of this episode? On the contrary, feeling this close to a way out just made me more impatient. Gulping and trying to ignore the fear lurking behind me, I quietly closed the door. That light coming out of the crack, it's just a trap. An iron shackle making it look like I'm an inch away from freedom, though that door will never actually open. A shackle trapping me in here for all eternity. I need to get out of this creepy room as soon as possible. When I closed the door, all that filled the room were the eerie sounds of wind and rain. The way the wind picked up every now and then and shook the window frame felt like a monster in a cage shaking the bars. I was so scared of that monster, I couldn't help but avert my gaze from the window. Gotta search. If I can't get out the door, I need to find another way out. Just to the side of the door was a closet. There was only enough space inside to hang overcoats. Of course, it didn't connect to anywhere outside the room. If this were hide and seek, it would probably be fun to hide in there. However, inside this creepy room, it'd be no better than stepping into my own coffin. If I go in there, maybe I'll find myself trapped in the closet next. This fear I didn't understand sent a massive shiver up my spine, and I closed the closet door in a hurry. There's one door left. The bathroom. When I opened it, there was the bath and toilet. Of course, there was no exit. There weren't even any windows. If I turned the faucet, water would probably come out and then disappear down the drain and flow outside. But I couldn't get out that way. Unless I went into the bathtub, with the stopper pulled out of the drain and smashed my flesh and bones to bits. I had the feeling that this was the only way out. So the black stopper in the bathtub drain looked extremely terrifying. Whoever this is, they're having quite the crisis, and then some. I tried a lot of things, both mentally and physically, but there really was no chance of me getting out of the bathroom. Next is the window. Beyond the window is a pitch black darkness. The fierce winds and rain are slamming against the glass. The darkness on the other side of the window may have been unsettling, but I didn't really care where I went, as long as it got me out of this room. However, the window was clamped shut. Right down the middle of the window, which was made to swing open like a set of double doors, were several ugly metal clamps. Damn, who would do such a wild thing? It was even more unnerving than the chain on the door, like a rough operation scar on some bizarre monster. The wind and rain slammed against the window frame, shaking it and making it creak loudly. However, unlike the door, this wouldn't open even a crack. I've had enough. Give it a rest already. What the hell's going on with this room? I've had enough of this creepy room. Enough, 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 enough. It's impossible to go outside except by the door and windows. And compared to that thick door, the window looks like it might be possible to break. I'll smash it. If I swing a chair at it, the glass will probably break. I might even be able to smash the wooden grid that runs through these latticed windows. All I need to do is make a gap large enough to slip out of. I grabbed a fancy-looking antique chair and headed back to the window. Okay, we're doing some screaming. Smash it. Over and over. The glass smashed with a violent sound and the frame groaned and creaked. Smash it, over and over. If I can just break through the wooden grid. Damn it, what the hell? Even though the glass had been smashed apart, even though the cold rain that blew in tormented me, I just couldn't get that grid to break. They weren't iron bars. It was just a slender wooden mesh. Even though it's fragile enough to make that creaking sound, why doesn't it break? No, wait, maybe it's almost broken. What if I try attacking it from a different angle instead of just smashing it head on? I stuck my left hand outside through the hole in the broken lattice window, grabbed the frame from the front with my right hand, and tried to break it by shaking it around from both sides. My left hand started to grow ice cold from the frigid winds and rain. When I shook it, fragments of glass sticking out from the broken frame poked into me, and my wrist was soon stained with blood. But if I can just get out of here, this much pain is no big deal. But I can't get out. I'm stuck. It won't open. I can't break it. The more violently I shook the frame, the more the glass fragments tore into my left wrist, causing the intense pain. Wait. What's... Huh? Okay. Now we're feeling the pain. Before I realized it, the glass fragments on the frame had extended outwards. It was as though an ugly beast was trying to chew my hand off with glass teeth. It didn't just feel as though they were growing outwards. They actually were getting longer before my very eyes, and they're chewing my hands to bits. I tried desperately to pull my hand out, but it had already dug deep into my wrist and I couldn't move it. I put all my strength into it, but it just hurt more and more, and the glass didn't even budge. What the hell? Damn it, let go, let go, let go. I hit the glass with my right fist over and over, but that just hurt my right fist and did nothing to release my other hand. Just then, my left hand, which was still exposed to the rain outside, brushed against something slimy. What? It couldn't have been a leaf blown about by the winds or anything like that. I mean, it just felt like the touch of someone's rain-soaked hand. Then it closed tightly around my left hand. When I felt the 5 fingers, I knew that some person out in the darkness was touching my left hand. Are we like... We're not on the first floor, are we? These rooms are at least on the second. And, yes, I know who it is. It's the witch. The terrifying witch who rules over Rokkenjima's night. The 2 hands soaked in the freezing rain gently caressed my left hand. However, though I could tell what was happening by touch, I couldn't see anything out there in the darkness. Then, it felt about my fingers and twisted my ring finger upwards. Uh-oh. It's gonna break. At that moment, I saw something in the darkness for the first time. It was white. The darkness grinned and bared its white teeth. Then, that mouth filled with eerily white teeth approached my finger that had been twisted up so far it was about to break, and open wide. Uh-oh. It must have been laughing at me from the darkness. After all, that creepy mouth was twisting upward with a huge grin. I had a horrible idea of what it might be trying to do to my finger. A shiver ran up my spine. I resisted as much as I could, but the fangs of glass just wouldn't release my left hand. And then, it gently bit my finger. Excuse me. Like, gently or like... I mean, there's no gentle about it. Like, you're biting a finger, like, absolutely biting into it. There's only one way that can happen. If it's happening slowly, then they've got a whole lot of muscle. They got a whole lot of power coming through no matter what, whether it's done quickly or not. Flesh and bone were crushed and torn apart in an instant. Crunch, rip, tear, squelch. And splat. Don't forget the splat. Okay, so whoever this person is,
今何か聞こえませんでしたか？
they just had their finger torn off. Their ring finger, mind you.
僕も
Okay, so I was actually going to say, like, if this is actually an event that's happening, whether it's an event that's supposed to make us think something is happening inside of a room, or if it's just it's supposed to just be a case of like some glass breaking, you know, that can absolutely happen in a storm.
ガタンって音を聞いたような。
風で窓でもガタついたんだろうぜ。何しろオンボロ屋敷だからな。
そういうのってなんだか不気味だよね。本当に魔女が屋敷の中を歩き回ってるのかなって。6年前のガキの頃には随分怯えて夜を過ごしたもんさ。
いるベアトリーチェはいる。この廊下の向こうには何があるんですか？あちらには客室がございますが、今は使っておりません。
うん、ゲストハウスができたからね。それまでは客室に僕らは泊まってたんだよ。
ああ、俺も覚えてるぜ。今日のゲストハウスがあまりに綺麗なんで驚いちまった。
I do have to say, from my perspective of things here, I think the guest house is like the way to go. Probably not in this weather. It does kind of suck. But even the guest house is like, it's pretty well stocked with a lot of things going on there that it makes it very inviting. You know, the mansion is where it's at, sure. But the guest house, I think, is like a better choice in some ways. It feels a lot homier.
まあ新築だからな。私も自分の部屋をそっちに移したいもんだぜ。シャノン、エリカさんの部屋もゲストハウスでしょ？
はい、ゲストハウスにご用意させていただきました。で、ゲストハウスは屋敷から離れていると。どんな事件が起こっても互いには聞こえませんね。
やれやれ、まだ探偵モードなのかよ。明日の朝、全員で揃っておはようって言っただけでがっかりしちまいそうだぜ。
確かに、さすがに明日の朝には誰かが減ってないと困ります。ねえ。
Okay, but what if there isn't,
そ
you
れで
know?
はゲストハウスへご案内します。
What if we're all still here in the morning? You know, what is Battler planning here with his story? He might be trying to mess with us big time here. The adults were apparently about to begin a conversation they didn't want the kids to hear. The real family conference was about to start. As the kids and Erica followed Shannon on their way to the guest house, they passed through the entrance hall.
外は今が一番の振りのようだね。
The perfect time to go outside.
客までテレビでも見ながら、もう少し振りが弱くなるのを待ってもいいんじゃねえの？
ゲストハウスに戻りなさいってママに言われた。ゲストハウスじゃないと怒られる。おお。
ゲストハウスの方が落ち着けるぜ。不機嫌な親の声も面もごめんこむるぜ。
And you know, what's the problem with a quick trek through some pouring rain when you could just get to a location that should have like a shower and everything, you know? So you'll be able to get out of the wet clothes, you'll be totally fine.
ますますにお膳立てが整っているようで。
Erica giggled an openly indiscreet look on her face. There we go.
今傘のご用意をいたします。少々お待ちください。ちょっとずっと気になってました。あの肖像画のご婦人はどなたですか？
Yeah, okay.
まあぶっちゃけベアとの肖像画であることは知ってるわけですが、前回のゲームでは通り過ぎてしまっただけで面白くなかったので。
Erica whispered to herself, but of course no one heard her.
こちらは親方様の恩人 ベアトリーチェ様でございます。
おじい様に莫大な黄金を授けてくれた後宮家復興の恩人だそうだよ。
ただのじい様の中の妄想の魔女だぜ。こいつの亡霊が夜な夜な屋敷の中を歩き回ってるって話らしいぜ。
They also say that she's out there in the forest.
よせよ。俺、小さい頃はその話めちゃくちゃ苦手で。
そんなこともあったね。6年経った今はどう？
すっかり忘れてたが、この肖像画をまじまじ見てるうちに、また怖い気持ちが蘇ってきちまったぜ。
ベアトリーチェは怖くないよ。
That look that Maria was just giving us, that was a little strange,
敬い
wasn't
を持
it?
っていればね。
Or maybe I'm just overthinking it.
持ってないと。ね、シャノン。はい。使用人たちの間でもそう囁かれています。夜回りの使用人たちの間でも時折人影を見たとか黄金の蝶を見たとかいう噂が。
Ah, yes, those good old gold butterflies.
去年だか一昨年だかに使用人の人が階段から転げ落ちて大怪我してやめたじゃん。
Okay, but that could have been negligence, honestly.
あれ、ベアトリーチェの呪いだなんて囁かれてなかったっけ？
Okay, Jessica, calm down. We don't need you to, like, jump on board with this shit. Jessica told it like a ghost story, trying to scare Erica, but Erica just laughed disdainfully.
なんだよ、薄気味悪いな。ただの事故だろ？偶然だろ？
おじい様がここに肖像画を掲げてすぐのことだから、一昨年のことだと思うよ。確か、まさにここの大階段から落ちて怪我をしたんだよね。
That's the thing, though. You know, the idea of instilling fear, even if you're not trying to. People will create their own rumors, and then your brain will actually do the rest of the work.
そうそう、このバカでかい肖像画は何しろインパクトあったから、掲げられてすぐは屋敷中であれはなんだと話題になったもんだよ。それでその後すぐにここで事故があったもんだから、ベアトリーチェの呪いだってことになってさ。
ベアトリーチェの階段云々はこの肖像画の後から？いえ、その前からもベアトリーチェ様の霊が歩き回っているというお噂はありました。でもこの肖像画が掲げられてからはもっとそういう話が増えた気がします。
今までは魔女ベアトリーチェと聞いても具体的なイメージが湧かなかったからだろうね。この肖像画によって具体的になり、より一層以後の階段に厚みが出たんだと思うな。
そもそも魔女ベアトリーチェなんて誰が言い出したんです？
じい様だぜ。我が最愛の魔女ベアトリーチェってこの肖像画が出てくるまでは顔の想像もつかなかったけど。
こんな薄気味悪い肖像画がでーんと飾られたら、音楽室のベートーベンの肖像画も学校創立者の銅像もみんなちょうどいい階段の音章じゃねえか。
Okay, the Beethoven thing I think was like, I'm pretty sure that was an episode of Down to Down. So that seems to be like a true type of rumor that floats around.
ずっとこんな風雨の音を聞いていたら、そういう階段の一つや二つ生まれてもおかしくはなさそうです。まあ、所詮は階段、妄想、音取るにも足らない寝ぼけたうつけ者のざれ言以下ですが。
Erica looked up at the portrait and smiled at it hostilely, as though she felt that this smile was disrespectful to Beato. Maria's face soured.
おー、ベアトリーチェはいる。そんなこと言ってるときっとエリカに魔女の呪いがあるよ。おや、怖い怖い。魔女の呪い、大いに望むところですよ、ベア。
これでエリカが明日の朝変死してたら魔女殺人事件の幕開けだな。
Yeah, unfortunately that won't happen. As much as I'm sure a lot of us would, you know, like to see one of the six to be killed first, you know, possibly be her, I don't think that'll happen because, well, she's the detective. She's got that protection.
おいおい、お前探偵なんだろ？探偵がいきなり殺されるなんて斬新すぎるぜ。
おや、それは困りますね。現場検証に差し支えます。なるほど。ロックスにも探偵を殺してはならないとは書いてありませんし。
They don't?
マリア、いいもの持ってる。ベアトリーチェの呪いを防げるお守り。
お守り？
Oh, you know what? The whole idea of a charm I don't think was brought up since episode 1.
そんなのあるのか？
After fishing around in her bag, Maria pulled out a string of beads attached to a medal that had a scorpion drawn on it. It looked like a cheap prize from an arcade or something.
何です？
Convenience.
魔除けのお守りなの。効果は弱いけれど、これをつけてれば今夜一晩はきっとベアトリーチェの呪いを避けられるよ。
他にもクモの巣が魔除けに効くとも聞きました。
ベアとはきっと蝶の化身だから雲も苦手なんだね。
あれ、それは悪食島の悪霊が苦手な方じゃなかったっけ？熊沢さんが詳しいよな、そういうの。
Oh, she knows a whole lot of everything.
魔女に悪霊？
Okay, this is actually kind of weird. We have not been in this room since I think episode 2. Or I want to say episode 2. This room was definitely iconic for events that occurred in that episode.
少し興味を持ちました。よかったらゲストハウスでもう少し話を聞かせてもらえませんか？こちらが皆さんの傘です。外はまだだいぶ雨が強いのでお気をつけください。
Shannon held out the umbrellas that she had brought. Everyone headed towards the exit. Oh boy, how are things gonna go down this time around? The thing is, we seem to really be rushing towards the end of the first night, for the six to die and for the day of calamity to truly begin. And then, when there were none left standing in front of the portrait, a gold butterfly appeared. It expanded out into a golden splash, becoming a human form. And there she is. In the hall, empty now that the children had left, Beato stood alone and silent, looking up at her own portrait. Without a doubt, the figure depicted there was as like her as an image in a mirror. However, it felt as though its eyes and expression were just a little different from hers. From her perspective, while the person in this portrait was almost infinitely close to herself, it was just as surely a different person entirely.
あなたは誰なんでしょう？私にどうかあなたという人を教えてください。
Maybe the idea here in this one is that, you know, we have the idea of Beatrice, right? We have this, you know, this individual that we've known for episodes, this individual that Kinzo had known, and this rumor, or these rumors that have gone around to paint a picture of who Beatrice is. But then you have, let's say, the ghost of the individual, you know? Maybe that's what we have going on this time around. Of course, they're not going to be able to live up to what other people are, you know, saying Beatrice is supposed to be like. Beato had already finished reading the fragments from Featherine's library, which showed the tales of all the games so far. However, the witch called Beatrice, who had been depicted in them, had been so vastly different from her. I'll throw my prediction in the trash. I might be a little overzealous on that one, but who knows how this could all go down, especially since we have this recreation of Beatrice's character outside of the game board. At the very end, it looked as though that Witch and Battler had connected just a little bit as rivals. But for the most part, Beatrice had just bullied Battler in nearly all of the tales. Even though this was about her, she had no idea why Beatrice had tormented Battler so much when she had supposedly been born for Battler's sake. All she had learned from Featherine's library was that the former Beato was a completely different person who defied understanding.
あなたに何があったのですか？私はあなたの卵、そしてヒナ、あなたの翼は お父様のためにあったはず。それがいつ片翼をもがれ、あのように変わり果ててしまったのですか。
She had listened to the conversation Battler and the others had just been having. Beatrice can't handle scorpion charms? Beatrice can't deal with spider webs? Well, she wouldn't have wanted to touch either of those by choice, but it wasn't as though anything terrible would happen if she did. Was being perfectly fine when around those proof that she wasn't Beatrice? Even though this involved her own self, she didn't understand at all. So she quietly gazed into her own eyes on the portrait. It felt as though the truth hid behind those eyes. Beato slowly approached the portrait, and then she lightly touched it. Uh-oh. Shit, she's gonna fall into the portrait like we're over in Mario 64. When she did, it felt as though the portrait rippled slightly. Yes, this is a doorway, goddammit. A doorway to the long path that will lead her to the Golden Witch Beatrice. Beato felt a little dizzy. She lost her balance, feeling as though the world was twisting around her. Then, when she couldn't tell which way was up or down, she was swallowed downwards. With a soft, watery sound, Beato was sucked into the portrait. Okay, where are we going? The world inside the portrait was pitch black. However, there was nothing unsettling about it. It was a comfortable darkness, like when you put your head under the covers in bed at night. Beato realized this was a world inside herself. So despite the darkness, she felt a warm embrace. As long as she asked for nothing, this world would ask nothing of her. But she couldn't remain like this. She didn't want to spend eternity inside the darkness of this world. Yes, I need to hatch out of my egg. This darkness is the shell surrounding the gold butterfly called Beatrice.
私は生まれます。お父様のために、バトラお父様のために生き、尽くすために生まれます。
She took her goal, her reason for being born, and put it into words. As if in response to those words, the seal of the shell began to melt away. Cracks appeared in the darkness. A brilliant light enveloped the world. What a lovely sight. The vast open. It kind of looks like we're floating around with all the fragments, or in between the fragments, I guess you could say. Okay, goodbye portrait, I guess. And so Beatrice was born. Oh. Oh, shit. There I stood, with another me, along with another me. For a second, I thought that the me in front of me was the real Beatrice, the one I wanted to be more like. However, she was looking back at me with the same bewildered eyes, so I realized that wasn't quite it. That's right. I wasn't the only one born from that egg. She was also born. Is she my twin? Oh, great, now they're multiplying. No. It feels a bit different. How can I put it? Both of us are lacking something and immature. Yes, both of us are chicks, but we are also fragments of the true Beatrice. It felt as though we could become the real Beatrice together. No one explained this to us. However, we naturally understood. I decided to talk to this other me. Unless I get to know her and become one with her, I won't be able to become the Beatrice that Father desires. In other words, the thing that Father wants from me, and was so heartbroken to find missing. Must be something that she has.
こんにちは。
The Beatrice with her hair down looked at me dubiously several times, then finally spoke.
どうしてわらわと同じ顔を?
The true Beatrice also spoke in that manner. It looks like she really does have something that I lack.
さあ、それは私にもわかりません。
わらわは黄金の魔女。
Okay, I heard the chime. I heard the chime. What do we have going on here? Okay, so we have Beatrice the Elder and Beatrice the Younger, or whatever, a mysterious witch who existed even before the rules. She has the same name as Beato, but she was not given the purpose of devoting herself to Battler, a mere shadow of a witch sealed away by Kinzo. She spends her days pulling small pranks and clearing away the anti-magic toxin for the sake of her resurrection. Has many things in common with the evil spirits of Kijima, such as the fear of spiderwebs. She was the one who gave Shannon the golden butterfly brooch. Okay, so first came her before everything else. Technically. At least in, this story. She is... Oh, okay, let's just continue on. Yeah, she is basically the golden witch of this story.
私もベアトリーチェです。後宮バトラに仕えるために生まれてきました。
わらわは黄金の魔女にしてロッケン島の夜の支配者。後宮バトラは知っているが、あのような小僧になぜに仕えねばならぬのか理解に苦しむ。
I realized that the thought I'd had a second ago must have been true. Together, we really can become the true Beatrice. Though the person in front of me does have the part that makes her a witch, which I lack, she does not possess the mission to live for Ushiromiya Battler's sake. She has what I do not, and I'm sure I have something she does not. Well, you just stated it.
きっと二人で一人の存在なんです。双子みたいなものだと思います。
いいや違う。そなたはわらわの妹だ。わらわはそなたが生まれるよりずっと前から
そうだったんですか。
I was born later. So does that mean that the mission to live for Ushiromiya Battler's sake was born later on? However, I don't think my whole existence is quite something as faint and intangible as a mission. I have enough of a personality to think and act as I am doing now. So, the witch Beato and I are separate people, with both of us possessing something the other lacks. In that sense, maybe it's fitting for us to call ourselves sisters, as she says.
私はあなたのことが知りたいんです。
If there's something to take away from this scene, like, rather than like a setup for whatever goofy shit is going to happen in this story later on, maybe we can see it as the idea of Beatrice has existed long before, Battler had ever really stepped foot into becoming really anything of note. Whatever his sin might have been, 6 or so years ago, him leaving Ushiromiya and, or leaving the Ushiromiya behind and doing his own thing for 6 years or whatever. Basically, from before the time gap and before he had really any sort of say in anything, Beatrice always existed in some sort of way, and rumored as a witch.
わらわも知りたい。そなたもまたわらわであることは理解している。そして、なぜにそのような言葉遣いであり、バトラに仕えねばならぬのか。そしてどうやら、それを理解せぬ限り、わらわたちは互いに未熟らしい。
私は完全なベアトリーチェになりたいんです。
わらわはそなたが生まれるまでこれで完全な存在だった。しかしこうしてそなたが現れた今、そなたを受け入れるのがわらわの定めであるように思う。わらわもまたそなたのことを知りたい。
The witch Beato's tone was very slightly arrogant, which fitted her self-proclaimed status as the older sister. However, since we both realized that we are the same person, there was no need for her to be a bully. She probably realized that after meeting me, her current form was no longer her real self.
ここはどこですか？お屋敷のホール？あ。
Beato gasped. Her portrait wasn't there. Did that mean that this was at least 2 years in the past?
そうとも。後宮の屋敷のホールである。夜はわらわの時間。そして夜の屋敷はわらわのものだ。金蔵の間抜けは相変わらずわらわを蘇らせようだの、捕らえようだのと躍起になっている。皮肉な話よ。そのわらわはこうして堂々と毎晩 屋敷を支配しているというのに。
Okay, but even so, let's say, let's roll with it, right? Because anything could happen. And this is just like the idea of you don't, or something isn't monitored, therefore you can argue anything is going on. Let's say one of the paintings or pictures or whatever that I have in my living room decides to disappear, similar to the portrait here that just disappeared because quote-unquote Beatrice decided to jump on out and roam the halls or whatever at night. There's no way to prove it unless you go out there and check to make sure that that shit's still hanging on the wall like it's supposed to. There's no need to go and look for it. Your brain won't ever really think that it needs to look in that direction to make sure that something is still there. So, a story can come of something not being monitored, just straight up.
あなたはここで何を
And I feel like we've, sort of talked about this topic. This is something that has been brought up in some sort of way multiple times here throughout Umineko. Like, that's kind of the idea in a way.
しかし、わずかずつに日々、魔力は蘇りつつあるのだ。最後には見事復活を遂げ、あの金蔵を嘲笑ってやりたいぞ。わらわは見事、そなたの檻を抜け出したとな。その笑いだけを楽しみに、夜な夜な徘徊して暇つぶしをしている亡霊といったところよ。ご一緒してもいいですか？無論、何しろ。そなたもまたわらわの一部。右腕の同行を断る左腕がどこにいる？断る道理もない。そなたを迎えようぞ。我が妹、新しきベアトリーチェよ。ありがとうございます。お姉様。こそばゆい呼び方だ。
Yeah, I was gonna say.
だが悪くない。さあ、参ろうか。夜の屋敷を散歩しよう。わらわの退屈な日常を紹介しようぞ。
So we have the elder Beatrice and we have the newer one. So we're just roaming the halls. That's all we're doing here. We're not killing anyone necessarily. Or are we? The two Beatrices change their forms into two gold butterflies, flitting silently into the depths of the shadowy mansion. And if that is the case, of like they're just kind of, flying around and, just perusing, doing a little tour, maybe a little mischief here and there, then, what is to come of the deaths, what is the cause of those? Or what are the causes?
私は今でもそうなんですが。
Oh, 100%. I mean, we saw it in episode 1 there, Shannon.
よく物をどこに置いたか忘れたり、鍵をかけたつもりが忘れちゃったりとかして、迷惑をかけてたんです。
昔はよく夏日おばさんに怒られてたね。
でもシャノンは途中から克服したんだぜ。
Oh, you know what? I totally forgot. We have Shannon and Kanun that are in like a little bit of a rat race of some sort here. I don't remember the details, but they're supposed to like go for the love or whatever.
克服って
大したことじゃないですけど、こまめにメモを残すようにしたんです。大切なものはどこに置いたのかちゃんとメモして、日々繰り返すことはメモにチェックリストを書いてちゃんと点検して。
それであなたはベアトリーチェを見たんですか？
直接見たわけじゃないんですけど、やっぱりおかしいことがあって。
Strange things, mischievous things. She was talking about a certain summer night. Shannon had been doing the nightly rounds, and from her perspective, it was a ghost story. From the witch's perspective, it was just the story of a little summer's night prank. Are we gonna see like both sides of it? That, or maybe what just happened, like, this.
我が妹よ。
So this is the, like, you know, the past, I guess you could say. This is them meeting in the past, and also something happening with Shannon in the past.
そなたは人間の持つ半魔法の毒を理解しておるか？いいえ、何ですか、お姉様。うん、魔女の時代はもはや遠い過去。万物を支配したとのたまう人間どもは、我らの存在を否定する強い毒を持つに至ったのだ。その毒は私たちには有害なのですか？極めて危険だ。浴びれば立ちどころに我らの姿を蒸発させてしまうだろう。しかし不幸中の幸いなことに、我らの存在は未だ極めて希薄だ。そのおかげで毒の影響も甚大ではない。せいぜい一時姿を霞にされてしまうくらいだ。
しかし好んで浴びたいものではないということですね。
その通り。さすがはわらわ。理解が早い。
Okay, just to, like, lay out my thoughts and everything on this, like, toxin that comes from humans or whatever, I see it more as just, like, a, more than just a coincidental factor that we can apply to the fact that, you know, oh, if you know, use facts and logic enough, then yeah, of course, you're not going to see witches and demons and shit. But still, things are happening. There are events that occur, whether or not you actually can believe or apply facts, knowledge, logic, smarts, whatever. So I see it more as a, how much is your mental state deteriorating? What's your sanity level at, you know? There's still events that are occurring, but I feel like they're getting covered up in a way or becoming worse because people's sanity are just straight up falling. The older sister appeared to be haughty at first, but perhaps because she was so happy to have met her double and little sister, she was more than willing to teach her anything she wanted to know. The first thing she taught was that they were witches, a different type of being than humans. Beato had thought her inability to use magic meant that she wasn't a witch, but apparently she was still a witch nonetheless. And she learned that witches like her were bound by various limitations unlike humans. The greatest of those restrictions was the anti-magic toxin possessed by humans.
つまり簡単に言えば、人間の視界に入ってはならないということですね。
その通りだ。人間の目は毒を放つものと同じに考えよ。奴らに見られるということは、身を焼かれるのと同じことだ。それには劣るが、聞かれること、気取られることすらも毒を含む。
私たちは人間に近づくだけでも大変なのですね。
Wasn't Father a human? Why am I not burned by Father's toxin?
我らが魔力を蓄え、それを人間も認めたなら、その毒は限りなく軽減される。すなわち、我らの存在を認めさせることが、人間たちから毒を失わせ、再び彼らの前に降臨することもできるというわけだ。
なるほど。今の私たちは基本的に人間たちのいぬ間のみに存在できるわけですね。
魔力がまだまだ足りぬわらわたちは、人影に怯え、物陰にこそこそと隠れる野良猫にも劣る存在というわけよ。
The main goal of the older sister was to gain a large supply of magical power and be revived as a great witch strong enough to have no fear of the anti-magic toxin. For that purpose, she had wandered around the mansion night after night, striving to regain her magical power and reduce the anti-magic power of the humans. Basically, worsen their sanity level. We've all played, you know, spooky games before that have had those, right? Those mechanics. And if they get low enough, you die. The powerful previous Beatrice, whom she had read about in Featherine's library, had appeared openly in front of humans and had even toyed with them at will. According to her big sister, such a level of power was most impressive.
人前に堂々と姿を現し、魔法を自由自在とな。わらわとて想像もつかぬ大魔女の境地よ。それが わらわたちの未来の姿だというのか。
はい、お屋敷の人間たちの前に堂々と姿を現し、魔法や眷属を次々に召喚できる。
夢のある話だ。それがわらわたちの未来ならば、努力に励む張り合いがあるというもの。
そうですね。それでお姉様、そのための努力とこうして窓の鍵を開けて回ることにどんな関係が？
It was the middle of the night. They were following behind servants who were checking the locks on the doors and windows, and undoing those locks after the servants thought that they had been set. It felt more like a child's prank than the work of a witch.
これこそが大魔女へ至る道なのだ。千里の道も一歩から。その一歩は下せぬ者の目には時にあまりにみすぼらしくも見えよう。しかしこれは偉大なる一歩なのだ。
With pride, as though making the first step for mankind on the surface of the moon, the older sister undid the lock on a window with a click.
わからぬか、我が妹よ。これ式のことがなぜに偉大か。
いいえ、お姉様、よくわかりません。
The older sister closed her eyes lightly, smiled, and opened the unlocked window a crack. Just a little bit. Cool outside air flowed in, making the curtains flutter.
あえて人間の毒に満ちた言い方をしよう。本来この島に我らはいない。さらに言おう。今この廊下には誰もいないのだ。なのにこうして鍵が開き、窓が開く。それがどれほどの奇跡であり、魔法であり、そして我らが存在する証であるか。
The thing is there could be a legitimate, explanation otherwise for it. Somebody could have just done this themselves, however, we're not witnessing that. We're witnessing this as a cover-up.
そなたにもこの風の涼しさがわかるはず。
わかります。涼しいです。
風の涼しさ、柔らかさ、そしてそれになびくカーテンが髪をくすぐる感触、そのすべてが我らが確かにここに存在することを
そして私たちが確かに存在した証をこうして鍵を開けることで示して残せる。
だから鍵をわらわは開けるのだ。
Of course, it wasn't just small pranks like opening a window. She could also smash windows and vases or leave behind strange fires and mysterious scribbles. In fact, one time she actually did play a large-scale prank in the kitchen, piling up kitchenware in an eerie manner and leaving behind a bizarre scribble, which scared the servants considerably. Fucking Kumasawa. It was a complete success. She'd really managed to scare the servants, and had succeeded in making them acknowledge the existence of magic, weakening the anti-magic toxin. However, she usually chose to make her presence known by unlocking windows. The act of unlocking symbolized her release from the limitations imposed by the human's toxin.
いつかはわらわは、わらわとそなたは一つの魔女となり、ロッケン島のすべてを支配するだろう。その時こそ我らはすべての自由を得て自在に羽を伸ばすことができるのだ。
We won't have to be afraid of anyone's gaze anymore. We'll be able to fly wherever we wish, disappear whenever we want, laugh however we like, prank however we like, talk with anyone we want to. Humans might ask things of us from time to time. They might fight with us or play with us too. What wonderful things for us frail creatures, who cannot appear before anyone to look forward to.
今はいたずら程度に過ぎん。しかし、これの積み重ねによって、我らは存在する証を少しずつ得ていく。すでに使用人たちは、わらわの存在を夜の支配者、その存在をわずかずつだが、信じ始めている。
信じれば信じるほど、その人間の反魔法の毒は失われていく。
But I feel like a lot of it can be dashed away if somebody just came up and said, yep, that was all me. And it's like, oh, okay, I believe you. They don't ask any further questions, and all their work is done. Like, or undone, I guess I should say. Just for them to have to start over, and it shouldn't be too hard, honestly. I see. So this means that Father has no anti-magic toxin. And that's because he truly believes in the existence of the witch I am without any doubts. I finally realized that, though I thought him to be cold, Father does possess a kindness that can't be seen.
早く大魔女になってみんなの前に現れたいですね。うん。やがては誰の前にも堂々と姿を現すことができるだろう。それを重ね、さらに存在を信じさせ、やがては魔法さえ披露し、我らはそなたが話してくれた大魔女としてロッケン島に君臨するのだ。
Yeah, also to become Beatrice, you really, like, new Beatrice here, you've got to focus on that laugh. It is very interesting, isn't it? And on that note, we will wrap it up for this video. Guys, we're back. We are back at it. And like I said at the beginning of this video, I don't know if we're going to be able to get done with all of Umineko this year, but we also have a really long year ahead of us. And I also have some plans for other long playthroughs ahead of me. So, hard to say. Maybe we can get done with episode 7. Maybe. But we'll definitely get this stuff very close to finished by the end of the year, I hope. We'll really get to the grind, that is for certain. Thank you all for tuning into this one, guys. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you're all excited for this playthrough to be back. Ignore the real-time date down there. It's actually not quite 2026 yet, but this video will be released for everybody on the first day of 2026. I promise you that. But yeah, thank you all for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take it easy.